I think the first step we have to do is let the parents of students that are getting to that age, let them know what is going to be expected in kindergarten. You know, that when they come into the kindergarten, you know, they need to understand this is now school time. It's no longer playtime. I know that my youngest son had more pre-K than the others, but when he came into kindergarten, the rigor in the pre-K was not set up in such a way, it was more like playtime. And when he came into kindergarten, he wasn't ready to start learning, he was looking to play some more. And he had plenty of ability, but it was a late birthday, and my wife decided to keep him out for another year, and I thought that was just wrong. He should have been pushed a little bit more rather than. So, depending on the type of a program that they have, I think we should work with the existing daycares and also work with the parents in the district whose children will be coming in kindergarten to say, here's things that you can do at home, here are things that you know, show in their work. These are the expectations when they come in the first day. I was reading through the standards that you had given me, and I said that my grandson, who next week will be turning 3, would already fulfill all those standards from what I could see. And he doesn't go to a daycare, he doesn't go to a pre-K. My daughter works with him. He does extremely well. So I think at first venture we need to identify what is expected when the students come to pre-K and somehow get that information into the hands of the parents so that they can make a decision. Are they willing to work with the student, or should they look for outside sources for doing that? And then secondly, we should look at the existing daycares, saying here's what we would like to see as some type of a curriculum, some kind of, you know, standards that we're going to be needing when these students come into our school.
Yeah, that is another negative to starting our 4K, is we're going to have a bad effect on the existing daycares in the community.
And I was approached by a few people who work in some of the surrounding daycares just asking about it or those things. Yeah, I do feel bad about that, but also knowing that we would want to continue to be the best district that we can be, and knowing what we want as standards and knowing what those are, I think we do need to look at what's for our students. And I mean, I think that maybe it'll give them room for younger students and those things, because sometimes there's a waiting list with them. So for younger kids and students, younger kids, maybe, you know, it just changed the focus of who they're serving.
Last month when we had a visitor come in, they talked about multiple plans, you know, things that in-school services versus out-of-school services. And I think that if it's voluntary, how do we get to those students who really need it, as opposed to those who don't necessarily need it, who are doing well at home, whose parents know what things to expect when their child goes to school and does spend the time with them. So the focus has to be on the students that need it, and I thought that's part of what our early childhood was geared for. And if that's not doing the job, why isn't it? You know, we need to, I mean, why would a pre-K do a better job if we can't identify those students?
Early childhood, they have to meet specific criteria from the state for special education needs. And that's a criteria that we can't, there's no grade in that, it's set by the state. And so that might be some of the students who fall outside of that, who may be in need of something, but may not be at a significant level of
How do we
impairment.
identify those students?
What about what Chris had proposed a couple months ago? What was that, Title I?
To answer Paul's question first, the EC kids are identified through referral. Sometimes it's from birth to three, the birth to three agency from the county. Sometimes it's from daycares, sometimes it's from pediatricians, physicians, and sometimes parents just have an inkling that they should have their kids looked at. And that's typically how early childhood kids are identified.
And you also do the child find days.
Yeah, and we're mandated to do the child find days. But most of those families that are funneled into that child find are referred by a pediatrician, birth to three, and just parents that have an inkling that they should have. But you're right,
It's also, I mean,
it's a larger venue to do that.
Exactly.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up. So to answer Doug's question, the title preschool is an option. Title I preschool, yeah. And the target population for Title I would be 4-year-olds because we don't have a 4-year-old kindergarten in the district. We would have screeners, so it wouldn't be open to everyone. It would be open to a population in need.
Okay.
The need wouldn't necessarily be as significant of kids that you would see in early childhood, special education programming, but the flip of that is that also presents an opportunity for the early childhood kids to be part of that preschool program too, depending on their IEP needs. I don't know if there's anything else you wanted to add.
There's some 4K testing that's coming from the state that we can use, as well as some other things that we've looked into to look at emotional, social, even their tactile needs, their communication vocabulary needs, if they're not using all the words in general vocabulary, so we could look at some of those as criteria. And then you just take students based on need in a targeted list, so if you meet up with another 4K student, you can test them, and the testing doesn't take that long, and then you can see how they fit in the priority over the course of the year.
And the impact of the 4K, there isn't necessarily an immediate tax impact on the citizenry because we're getting the funding for the Title program, Title I preschool program from the federal government through Title I funds. So there isn't a direct tax on the property taxes for
Just for Title I.
Right.
I'm in favor of doing that, but also just want to caution us again that a lot of the research we've read indicates that when you put students who are meet a specific criteria without typical developing peers, they don't have as much long-term academic benefits as they do if they're all together. So that might be a place to start, but I don't think it's a place to stop and say that we have 4K Title I. I think we have to continue to look at.
Well, I can agree with that, yeah.
Yeah. So I think we have to be cautious of that too. It may be a place for us to start, but I don't want to stop there.
And that's an interesting point that Dawn brings up because we're not clear how on the amount of title funds from year to year. So what I'm saying is if that diminishes, we may have to think about a broader 4K program.
I was thinking, baby
So
steps, see how it works a little bit. There wouldn't be the funding impact possibly on taxpayers.
I agree with baby steps, and I think the first step is to identify what are our requirements coming into the school. And letting parents know about that, identifying parents of pre-K students, to let them know, here are our expectations.
Title I dollars are available. We could start Title I immediately. We could have it going this fall.
We could have it going late fall. I mean, there's some staffing and
You'd have to screen.
doing the screening and getting the transportation set up.
We certainly have the room.
We have the space.
Title I would also cover transportation.
It would.